Alright guys, so today is our last day at the Albertown campsite. We finally found a place to live. I'll talk more about how we did that in a little bit, but right now we are taking the van up. We're gonna go to Brewster Hut and do a little hike and finally say goodbye to this place, which has been our home, but we're glad to leave because we want to take showers. Alright, now we're stopped at this little cafe that has delicious eclairs. Before our hike, we're gonna get a sandwich. So we made it to the trek. I don't know exactly where we're going yet, but somewhere up ahead is the Brewster Hut. Should be a good hike. I think it's 3 hours, but see if we can knock an hour off of that or something. Okay, so we're like 2 hours into the hike. We are not at the top, I wish we were, but it got really pretty. So I thought I'd show you guys this view right here. It's pretty spectacular. I'm sure it's gonna be even better from the top. Pretty stoked about it. So see you at the top. So we made it up to the hut in 3 hours, which is what the sign said. So right on time. And then we had some lunch. I brought a baguette, some cheese, some tomatoes. I also brought some wine, and all that was so good and much needed. I honestly wish I brought more food. Um, at every hut I've been to, they have books either like this or the same kind of thing. Uh, One of the universities around New Zealand has a hiking club, and they publish a hiking book or a trekking book every year, and they leave them around the huts or anywhere they've been, and it's pretty cool to read those stories and everyone's interpretation of hiking and what it means to them. This is an intentions book. It's really just a log book. So you write the date and your name, how many people are with you, and what the weather was like. And DOC, the Department of Conservation, they get all this information when you register for your spot. But it's kind of cool, and it's kind of like an older tradition, I think, that is still around, and I really like. So we always write our names and whatever. Every hut that I've been in has one of these big counters. It's a dry counter, so they have a dry sink where you can dump out your liquids, but you can't. There's no running water inside the hut. There are water tanks outside of the hut, but it's usually unfiltered. So I usually bring a filter with me. It's fine. There's usually an outhouse like that one outside. I set up a time lapse, and I came out here because some Kias were eating my tripod. A Kia is one of the oldest species of parrot, and they're actually one of the smartest species of parrot, and they apparently really love the foam on my tripod. There were 3 of them out there. This is just the bravest one who just really wanted my tripod. They're really cool. The next morning I went out and I hung out with them for a little bit. They're really interested in you, and you can get pretty close to them. Obviously, don't try to touch them or anything. But they are really annoying. They woke us all up at like 5 a.m. because they don't like chirp. They like screech at each other, and loudly and so early. But overall, pretty interesting birds. So a little bit about the Brewster Hut. It was built in 2007, as you can see from the sign. And it actually sits on Mount Armstrong and has a view of Mount Brewster. Mount Brewster is that rocky wall face behind the hut. And then Mount Armstrong is to the right in most of these shots. And Mount Armstrong is a little bit easier to summit, but you can definitely summit Mount Brewster. You just got to go off-road a little bit. And behind Mount Brewster is Brewster Glacier, and you can check that out too. I did not do either of the peaks. The next morning when we woke up, it was raining, so we decided just to head down. But yeah, so every time I've gone to a hut, there's always been some people there, and they've always been really great, really friendly, cool people to talk to. We stayed for a little bit. They have candles, so you have some light. I always bring LEDs. But yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, like I said, so we woke up the next morning. It was raining, which kind of blows, but it wasn't too bad. It was cold. It was wet and cold, and hiking when it's wet and cold kind of sucks. But it was, honestly, it was so beautiful. It was like, man, it's hard to describe, because you get like this feeling when you're like looking at something just so crazy, because like, I don't know about you, but I'm not always on the side of a mountain watching clouds move through a valley. So it is, it gives you this kind of sense of wonder. And honestly, on the whole way down, it was like that. Even through the woods, the woods were just, it was wet and muddy, and you had to watch your step. There's plenty of roots and a little bit tricky, but still very beautiful. It was a very unique forest that I haven't hiked through many forests like that before, so it was really cool, and I'm very appreciative that I got to do it, especially before quarantine. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. See you next week.